So, Mr. Mayor, are you now on the Hopkins coaching staff? I noticed that, Coach Wodeka was pointing to you on the sideline. You were getting a lot of TV coverage this past Saturday. What was going on there in River Falls other than you freezing your you-know-what off all game?
So you're really going to make me tell this story, huh? Because I got plenty
Oh,
of
yeah,
text
we are.
messages about this. Oh, boy. Coach, I apologize in advance for this, but I guess in full transparency, I need to explain what happened. So you know what I do on the field, JB, right? Or on the sideline. I'm taking video the whole time. Yeah. Boy, it's a horrible look when you see it actually on the sideline. Okay. We get it. Okay. So the Bay Harvey play, which we'll look at a little bit more in depth later on, where we're going to call it targeting because that's what it was. Okay, I don't care what people are trying to say out there. The press box angle suggested one thing. The other two angles that I'm relying on suggest something entirely different. And it's a dangerous play, folks. And that's why, when we look at targeting, why it exists, yeah, it's got some problems. We know it does, but it's dangerous. So, okay, everybody in that sideline who watched that play out right in front of us knew players out. And, you hate to see disqualifications at this time, but if it happens, it happens, okay? Yeah, he would have had to miss the first half of the Stagg Bowl if that was the case. So there would be a penalty related to that, although they could have appealed to the national administrator to review it again, so they could have gotten a reprieve later on if they really felt it wasn't. Okay, so take the video. I hear that they've overturned the targeting. I go over to the area where the referee's talking to Coach Wodeka about, why the overturn, and he was heated, and honestly, he should have been. And so I'm listening in to hear what he's saying, and the referee tells him it was the side of the helmet. I hear that, and I'm next to this chain gang guy who, the chain gang's a River Falls contingent, obviously. And they're like, I'm looking at my phone, and then he's looking at my phone. I think you can see it actually in the video when they're looking over at my phone. And, this is not player personnel, so it's fine. We're all on the sideline. And he's like, yeah, it's the side of the helmet. And I'm like, the hell it is. I'm like, that is the crown of the helmet all day. That is targeting. And it's clear, I said it loud, not realizing necessarily how loud I said it. And I didn't realize Coach Wodeka heard me say it. So as he started to walk away, he must have heard me say it, turns back around and restarts to the refs like, we have the video right there. I was like, oh no, we're not doing this. We are not doing this. Because
Frank's
I'm
looking
not
for
a
the
review.
nearest exit.
I'm not a review source. I can't do this. So I'm like, oh boy. I was afraid the camera was on me in some ways. So I was like, I can't
Oh, yeah, it was. Yeah.
acknowledge this. I need to sort of figure out a way out of here at this point. And he just kept going. He was heated. He apologized, for anything, I felt was wrong. I was like, Coach, you know what? All things considered, you have nothing to apologize for because
man. Yeah, nothing
that
to
is the
apologize
fourth.
for.
That's the fourth targeting call that we've seen. Either at the game before or having to talk about the first Susquehanna one, for instance. I wasn't at the game, but we talked about it on the show.
Right.
And I just watch these reviews, and I'm dumbfounded. And I'm going to talk about some other things that dumbfound me in 2025 in terms of things that we need to do better generally about technology and the fact that we have it available at a reasonable price these days and the know-how that needs to go along with it. It's what are we doing? The ESPN can't put a reverse angle of camera there because that reverse angle would have seen what I saw, what I took the video of. And it needs to be fixed. This needs to be fixed. This is ridiculous, okay? I appreciate that we have some sort of reviews, but if you're relying on a reconfirmation of a targeting call that was a clear target to the officials that saw that on the field, then and you're relying on what's piss poor technology, to reconfirm it, your eyes are better than the piss poor technology at that point in the first place as an official. So I get that there's gravity to these targeting calls, the ejections that come from them. But again, this is a hyper dangerous scenario that, especially the crown of the helmet calls for helmet to helmet. Maybe we need to look at the whole, situation where we strictly apply for those types of calls, whereas the ones where it's a defenseless player, so it's anything from here up and all those things. That's a little bit different. That has a lot more subjectivity to it. Maybe that's the one that can be reconfirmed or need to be reconfirmed. But the one we saw on Saturday was absolutely ridiculous. Okay, and I'm not blaming the River Falls player. I understand that Harvey started to try to get into a slide. He injured his knee trying to get into that slide, but not being able to do it. That was actually what affected Harvey later on in the game. His knee actually was injured. That's why his running toward the end of the game was not the same as it was throughout the rest of that game earlier. So Harvey didn't exactly execute the best slide that he should have, but the player came in head first. That's the problem. You can't do that. Try to go body up and wrap. That's what they teach you, because he could have hurt himself as much as he hurt Bay Harvey on that play, and that would have been a bad result for River Falls too. So that's what we're trying to protect here. But yep, that's what happened. Again, I was in where I could be. It's not like I was out of bounds or inside the player's box or anything like that, but because everything kind of leaned toward the 20-yard line and beyond with the conversation.
In the right place at the right time, in a way, yeah. Just the sideline just happened, boom, right in front of you.
Well, or I'm talking about more like the Wadaka. I'm like,
yeah, that too.
I've really, really grown to appreciate Coach over these last couple of years. He's a character. He is. And I can see why the players respond to him so well. He's young enough to associate with them, but he also has a good maturity about him. And he also knows when to turn it on at the right time, at the right level. I don't blame him for turning it on there. I don't blame him one bit. You see your quarterback get pulverized in that situation, and you're going to be mad. Yep.
Yeah.
We even saw Coach Barron with Nick Semtenfelter getting hurt at the end of the North Central game. He was the first one out there to hold the hand of his quarterback and say, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" You form a special bond with your quarterback as coaches like these. And when you see your player, and that was not a malicious hit. That was an accidental hit. We'll see it also in crunch time.
Yeah, sure.
Where basically the North Central player got rolled into Semtenfelter's lower leg area, and it was not him launching at it. Yeah, he just got kind of thrown into it on the ground, and there it was. But these coaches take it very seriously that quarterbacks are a protected position for a reason, and you when you see them get hurt, in this case, Spearman wasn't mad; he was more concerned. I think he knew what happened as much as anybody, but it's a point of contention for a reason.
Yeah, and I think player safety has really improved tremendously. That last touchdown that Rohrer had for River Falls about 20 or 30 years ago probably would have been him going up and getting a helmet right in the sternum and getting carried off on the field on a stretcher. But now coaches are telling guys in the defensive backfield to play the ball, and so at the end of the day, Rohrer makes a play on the ball, the DB doesn't, and so that's how the end result is. But back in the good old days, a receiver like that gets destroyed and carried off on a stretcher. It's good that doesn't happen anymore. I think it's better for the sport. But yeah, player safety is an important thing, and that's why, like you were saying, with you get these targeting calls right. Let's kind of protect the guys a little more. I'm curious to see if the NCAA is going to start instituting some of the kickoff rules we've been seeing in the NFL at some point. We'll see.
There's discussion about it. I don't think we're there yet. I think it's a little too complex for the way things run, and especially the lower divisions, and I think that's why they're avoiding doing that currently. But it's not impossible. Yeah. We'll see what happens. Well, JB, we got two great games to talk about here, and so it's time to start up the show. Folks, you are watching Season 18 of In the Huddle, our semifinals Crunchtime show. Okay, folks, you know what? We've talked a little bit about the games, and JB, it's time for you to give your 30,000-foot view of what realistically, he said, was a really great game one, and a game two that had moments, but obviously it kind of went the way we assumed on our Friday show. It wasn't Friday Live. I kept wanting to say that in the show, but our Friday pre-recorded show. Anyway, 30,000, go.
Yeah, well, I think we got the Stagg Bowl that we expected. I mean, there were moments where it looked like maybe Johns Hopkins could pull it off. There was a sequence in the third quarter that I'll talk about later that I think was a really big turning point in the game for Hopkins and River Falls. But with North Central, just the consistency, the running game, Garrett Wilson bounced back after what wasn't a great game for him the week before and just was outstanding. And so, yeah, we have a championship game between what really seems to be the two best teams in the nation at this level. And it should be a really exciting matchup. What I wanted to ask you, Frank, interestingly enough, because we've been talking about all the different Stagg Bowls that North Central's been in over the years, and they've been favorites in most of them, if not all of them. I remember back in 2021 was the first time that D3 football was wrong in their picks. You actually picked UMHB. You were on the panel back then before things happened, and now we're not involved. But I think it was 6-4 NCC and that and. We all saw what happened with Kyle King just having an amazing game. They put up 57 points. North Central never had a chance. You've seen River Falls in person. You were at the Stagg Bowl in 2021. Are there any similarities between this Falcons team and that Crusaders team from 4 years ago?
Yes and no. I think that Mary Hardin-Baylor in 2021 had the Brandon Jordans of the world and other receiving core. They had enough receivers on that team of note that I think you couldn't cover everybody as well. And they also had a good backfield as well.
Sounds like Cortland.
Yeah, this is not, before I continue here, I'm not saying that River Falls doesn't have this stuff. I'm just giving you first what Mary Hardin-Baylor had. Okay, so hold on for a second, folks. So I think that they had enough offensive arsenal to win, and I also think that the defense for Mary Hardin-Baylor was of an extreme talent pool that we haven't seen really at Mary Hardin-Baylor the same way. I mean, Durant Hill and company have been great guys, but it's a question of all the defense from the line to the linebackers to the defensive backfield that we're seeing some inconsistencies with them since that point. In 2021, they were that, and I saw that myself along the way. I mean, when they clamped down on Hardin Simmons in that second half, they showed who they were and what they had after a piss-poor first half, honestly, in that game that I attended down in Belton. So, they learned from that game, I think, forward how to play like that. The problem, the concerns, or the differences, first similarities, I should say, River Falls does have a good number of good receivers, Hilton and Rohrer and company, and they do have glimmers of great backfield hope. But what really was interesting on Saturday was when the chips were down, it fell on Caleb Blaha to throw the ball. 520 yards worth of throwing the ball. Okay, if you told me coming into that game his split would be 520 passing, about 30 rushing, I would have told you were nuts. And yet that's what happened. And they needed every one of those 520 yards, obviously, to win that game passing. So I don't know if when facing a defensive line with the likes of J.P. Sullivan and whatnot, they're going to be able to run the ball. And so now it comes down to the defensive secondary and Roby and company back there. You know, my money's on them in that type of situation. Defensively, this is where my concern comes. They gave up 41 points to Johns Hopkins. Admittedly, a very good offense, but I think North Central's offense is as good as, if not better than, I'll put it that way, to be respectful here. You know, that NCC offense compared to Johns Hopkins offense, I just think that they can't give up 41 points. They're not going to score 41 or 48 or whatever it turns into. So that's where the difference is. I don't see the defensive level that I saw with Mary Hardin Baylor in 2021. I guess you're making me pick this game right now, essentially, in doing this. But here's what I'll say before we go too deep in this.
Just a preview.
I think the AI, the 9 AI models, all picked up on the same thing. You saw some of them bring up the 41 points given up on Saturday as a central premise. And it's interesting that AI, which is not a football specialist, you know, could piece that together in that situation. So to answer your question, JB, do I see the similarities? Some, but I also see some major differences compared to 2021. And Garrett Wilson, who was a very shy green quarterback in a lot of ways in the Oshkosh game that I attended in Naperville, he's really come a long way. You can tell he's really gelled with that team. When he scored his touchdown, he was over in the other, you know, players not dressed section there, you know, giving his little pose down with them and everything. He's the leader of this team right now. And, you know, I can't say that in week 2 because that was his first start. Now, clearly, he is a leader or the leader of this team in a lot of ways, at least on the offensive side of the ball. And so I just feel like they're gelling on offense overall at the right time. That's my takeaway on this. But, you know, let's talk about how we even got here in the first place. We're not going to do an official crunch time setup here. We'll do a little background music. We'll do stuff. But JB and I will talk a little bit about this game as we go along. And JB, interject where you'd like to, because here we go. We'll start with Johns Hopkins at River Falls on a very blustery day. It was 21 degrees Fahrenheit, but the wind chill made it feel like it was minus 15 at times. We'll go a minute and a half into the first quarter. And here is Caleb Blaha starting things off with a 4-yard touchdown run. And here we go again. A minute and a half into the game, it's 7-0, River Falls leading. Then 2 minutes later, Johns Hopkins responds. Jeff Schroeder gets a 43-yard touchdown run to tie things up, 7 apiece. We'll go about a minute and a half later. Here's Caleb Blaha rushing. He takes a nice little shot to the shoulder, and he'd be knocked out of this game at this point. And so eventually there would be a punt for River Falls. Johns Hopkins, Bay Harvey gets a touchdown, 11-yard touchdown run, 14-7 at that point in favor of Johns Hopkins. Blaha reinserts into the game, and later in the first quarter, it's Jalen Reed getting a touchdown run, 12 yards here, on a 12-play drive to make it 14 apiece. Then it's deja vu with 8:06 remaining in the second quarter. Jalen Reed again, this time a 72-yard touchdown pass from Caleb Blaha. Part of those 520 passing yards, 21-14, River Falls leads. But this quarter, far from over. 6:50 left in the second quarter. John Bechtel gets a 33-yard touchdown pass from Bay Harvey to make it 21-20 because the extra point was missed. Keep track of that. We'll go 2:30 left. 4th and 2 for River Falls. And they're on their own side of the field, the 42-yard line, and this completed pass is short. Jalen Reed couldn't get any yards on the play. That was a big risk taken by River Falls, and it eventually led to this 2-yard Bay Harvey touchdown run. So suddenly, it's Hopkins up 27-21 with 13 seconds left in the first half. They had one more chance, believe it or not. Blaha is intercepted by Carter Hogg. I'm not sure how he avoided having this ball hit the ground, but he did indeed, Carter Hogg. And so they run out the field goal team. Caleb Waite Yep, Caleb Waite, though, from 39 yards, no good. The wind took it and made it go wide left. So at halftime, 27-21 in favor of Hopkins. We'll go the third quarter, 12:56 remaining. Blake Rohr, a 20-yard touchdown pass from Blaha, makes it a 28-27 lead for River Falls. Then 10:46 left in the third quarter. Cole Crotty gets a 6-yard touchdown pass from Bay Harvey. Got a couple great receptions on this drive. 34-28 at that point in favor of Johns Hopkins. Here, though, the ensuing kickoff, River Falls is lucky to even possess this ball. It's at the 1-yard line, and if they had turned over the ball here, this may have been the end of the game effectively. But they get the ball back and eventually have a 99-yard drive ending with Jake Hilton's 15-yard touchdown pass from Blaha. 34 apiece with 7:48 remaining, third quarter. A huge swing there ultimately, but Hilton did do a little bit of a celebration, and so the extra point is no good. They assess the 15 yards on the extra point, and so we stay at 34 apiece.
This is where I want to interject, because I really feel that, tie game, 34-34. Hopkins gets the ball back, 7:41 remaining in the third quarter. Bay Harvey runs for 4 yards on first down, then he's incomplete. So now at 3rd and 6 from their 35, Harvey drops back and nobody's open. And he's got like 10 yards of open field ahead of him. He starts to take off, and just by some miracle, I think junior defensive lineman John Klefstad, great name, he's like, must be like a relative of a Viking king or something like that, catches just like a shoestring tackle, which brings Harvey down. And then they punt the ball. Because of the wind, it only goes 35 yards. And then I'll let you go from here, but basically, if Harvey picks up that first down and that drive continues, I think this is a very different ball game in the end. That play by Klefstad was huge.
There were definitely a few different, if Hopkins had a couple different breaks in the third quarter, I think this game changes immensely, just like that 1-yard line situation. So here we go with 5:31 left in the third quarter. Blake Rohr, a 25-yard touchdown pass from Caleb Blaha, their second connection of the half, makes it 41-34, River Falls leading. Then we talked about it in the cold open, but here we go. Bay Harvey sacked for a loss of 3 yards by Noah Nussbaum, but again, this is targeting all the way. The crown of the helmet made contact. We'll even look at the head-on view from the end zone, and you can see probably a couple inches from the stripe on the helmet is where the contact of part of the face mask zone was hit, and that is part of the helmet. So that should have been targeting, and they overturned it, and that's where things blew up for Coach Wadika, and it is what it is at this point. But again, the overturned targeting was a key moment here. But later in the drive, 37 seconds into the fourth quarter, Ty Pugliano gets this 2-yard touchdown run. So they did still get points here, 41 apiece on a 13-play drive. And, great job by Hopkins to keep it together offensively despite Harvey being out with that injury. 5:25 left in the fourth quarter, 4th and 10 play here. And you're going to see that Bay Harvey is incomplete back in the game. They were at the 27-yard line. They looked for Chad Martini, but couldn't get it to him. That's a turnover on downs there. Another missed opportunity for Hopkins in that situation. So then, though, around 3:30 left in the fourth quarter, 3rd and 7 for River Falls, and Blaha complete to Hilton here, but this 30-yard gain is nullified. It was illegal touching for a covered receiver, and so it's a loss of down penalty and 5 yards. Coach Walker didn't realize it. He admitted it in the press conference until the last second, but he let it play out anyway because he thought they could still get the 4th and 12. Blaha rushes for 9 yards, and so Hopkins gets the ball back near midfield, but they were forced to punt here, and they get the ball to the 4-yard line. River Falls needed 96 yards to take the lead here in this tied game. Well, here you go. We'll let ESPN tell you the story.
Reifenberger, Hilton, Rush, and Reed. Those are the guys I'm looking to get the football to.
Oh my gosh! Blake Rohr is alone! Blake Rohr with the greatest play in the history of River Falls football!
And we'll look at it from my angle too. Blake Rohr, the 79-yard touchdown pass from Blaha. Indeed, the biggest play in the history of River Falls football. 48-41 at that point. It was absolutely. And then the next play on offense for Johns Hopkins was Bay Harvey being intercepted by Brady Block, and that would do it. An incredible game for sure. River Falls wins 48-41. Bay Harvey, 288 total yards, 2 rushing, 2 passing touchdowns, and an interception. Jess Schroeder, 25 carries, 159 yards, 1 rushing touchdown. Caleb Blaha for River Falls, 30 for 48, 520 yards, 5 passing touchdowns, and an interception. Blake Rohr, 9 catches, 236 yards, 3 receiving touchdowns. You heard the story about the Tarnation tandem that came out during the press conference and has caught fire since that point. Tarnation Tavern selling these t-shirts now like hotcakes after this all came out. Even the media from River Falls didn't know this story, and it makes me laugh looking back at how this all plays out. And Trent Jackson, their SID, helped make sure it came out all the way as we were asking about how Caleb Blaha made Blake Rohr a better receiver, not realizing the entirety of the story. But if that tandem doesn't exist, those 3 touchdowns in the second half, we keep looking at the last touchdown, JB, but they were just in connection that entire game for 236 yards receiving. That's not just 1 catch, folks. And
that's 9.
That is a key connection. And the question you got to ask yourself is Blake Rohr guardable for an entire game, even by those at North Central? He's 6'3 plus, I think, out there, and a force to be reckoned with. And we'll see what happens. But what are your thoughts here?
No, it was just an incredible game, just back and forth. And, like you said, Hopkins had some opportunities to take it home. But, I think when I sort of step back and look at it, and I made a comment on Twitter during the game that basically when, to be at this level in Division III, you basically need a roster full of FCS level talent, both in size, speed, depth, and all that, and both of these teams have that. But I think the difference is that Hopkins doesn't really have that when it comes to the secondary side of things. They have it with the defensive line and some offensive line players. Harvey obviously is a great quarterback, but they took advantage of some mismatches in the secondary, particularly a corner who's under 6 feet tall, younger guy, probably playing his first big semifinal national championship game. He got beat for 2 or 3 touchdowns. And the size challenge, Mary Roby is only 5'11". Maybe he's 6 feet in cleats, but he's going to be giving up some size to players like Rohr and Hilton, these other really tall Falcons receivers. So I think we're going to see a lot of jump ball type of plays to try to do that. Roby's not going to get beat deep. Like he'll stick on his man, no problem. But they can beat him with like basketball jump ball type of plays. And we saw that a few times against the Hopkins secondary, who were just a little undersized compared to some of these big guys on River Falls.
One thing I will say, you asked me earlier about comparisons to 2021 Mary Hardin-Baylor. The one thing Mary Hardin-Baylor didn't have, and I'm sorry to Kyle King when I say this, was a mobile quarterback that can actually beat you on the ground. And the one thing that Johns Hopkins did
sorry, Kyle.
Sorry, Kyle. The thing that Johns Hopkins, I think, did well in this game, I think they had a spy on him because it was clear he was not comfortable out there running and they were finding him. So they must have had a spy on him throughout this game. Now, if North Central has to commit a spy on him to do the same thing, they lose a little bit in the secondary in the situation, and he can maybe throw for 400 yards, which could be a game changer. If they don't commit the spy to him, are they going to be able to stop him? Is the line going to be able to get him what they need for him to be able to spring loose on the ground? There's a lot of ways to look at this chess match, but whether or not you put a spy on Blaha is, I think, where you start with the assessment of how to play this game. And then from there, you have to play your rest of your pieces to see how you're going to stop the rest of them. So either you're going to commit the spy and figure out what to do in the secondary, or you're not going to commit the spy and rely on your defensive line to do what they need to do to get to him in time. to stop the runs. North Central may not need to commit it because of that defensive line, but I'm just saying that is clearly to me what was going on Saturday and what led to a little discomfort from the normal pace and type of offense that River Falls runs. We'll see what they do with it ultimately. But let's talk about the other half of this equation, and that's John Carroll at North Central in semifinal number 2. Midway through the first quarter, North Central gets on the board as Grant McAtee takes this little shovel pass 5 yards from Garrett Wilson for a touchdown. That made it 7-0 in favor of North Central. About 5 minutes later, here's Jack Rummel with a 71-yard touchdown pass in stride from Garrett Wilson. And that makes it 14-0. We all started feeling this thing going that way right now at this point in the game. 12:07 left, second quarter. It's Jack Rummel again. A 31-yard touchdown pass from Wilson, making it 21-0. Looked like a chance here for John Carroll. A tremendous catch by Tyron Montgomery. We're going to take a look at it at the second angle where they actually did have a camera on it the right way. Got the ball down to the 26-yard line of North Central very late in the first half. But then in the next play, J.P. Sullivan puts the pressure on, and it's Semptimphelter throwing it directly to Eli Rennick for the 60-yard pick six. I think he felt like it was a 600-yard pick six for the rumbling he had to do down the field, but he got it there, 28-0. Yep, our halftime score was that 28-0 score. We'll go third quarter, 7:31 remaining. Here's Aiden Ellison. Here's something else that they have that others don't. A great field goal kicker, 28 yards, good, 31-0 after that 10-play drive. 6:46 left, third quarter. Here's Tyron Montgomery. Again, just great receiver. He is 73-yard touchdown pass from Nick Semptimphelter to make it 31-7 at that point. But you know who else was great? Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson gets a 15-yard touchdown run, flexes his muscles toward that end zone group. 38-7 in favor of North Central. We'll go fourth quarter, 12:52 remaining. And you heard Nick Semptimphelter talk about his brother Kenny Rawls, the 18-yard touchdown reception here, 38-14. There was a good article about their relationship and how their family essentially adopted Rawls, and how they've had just a brotherhood since that point. So great to see them connect here for that 38-14 score. We'll go later on, not too much later on though. Donovan McNeil rushes for a big gain, but he fumbles the ball, and ultimately it's recovered by John Carroll. So an opportunity here, despite the 24-point difference. Well, 9:40 left in the fourth quarter, 4th and 9. Semptimphelter completes it to Rawls, but very short of the sticks. No gain and no more possession as it goes to North Central. We'll go 9 plays later. North Central's Aiden Ellison gets his 34-yard field goal for a 41-14 lead at that point, North Central. Then we'll take a look here. 36 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Shane Lindstrom, a 21-yard touchdown pass from Semptimphelter. Great touchdown, but when we go and look back at the line of scrimmage area or the backfield, you're going to see him get rolled up on Semptimphelter and injured. We did inquire. Coach Merriman said he was definitely hurting the next day, and they're taking a good look at making sure he gets fully mended up. So Nick, you're a warrior out there. Your last play was a score at the very least, but obviously we hope you do well, getting back on your feet there fully. And then here's the final kneel down as the game is over and North Central wins 41-21. Semptimphelter 34 for 47, 307 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and an interception. Tyron Montgomery, 10 catches, 136 yards, 1 receiving touchdown. Garrett Wilson for North Central, 351 total yards, 3 passing, 1 rushing touchdowns. Jack Rummel, 6 catches, 179 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns, but I believe he's also injured from that game, and probably could use that extra week we have right now as well to get himself back up and running. But JB, the fast start by North Central just put it too far out there. Looked like John Carroll took some chances at certain points, and some of them worked, some of them didn't. The ones that didn't, they paid for. Obviously, that end of the first half scenario, already with their backs to the wall, that just basically was, the end of things as far as, being competitive in this game was. But they kept fighting in that second half, and so a 28-point game became a 20-point game They won the second half in terms of the scoreboard, which, I know these moral victories and whatnot don't mean anything to coaches, but you always kind of look at that and say, well, you know what? We didn't quit. And that's a credit to John Carroll. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a broken record, like I said before, and a lot of times we just we hope that teams, when they play Mount North Central, don't get rolled in the first quarter or half, and it happens all the time. It's just one of those things where if you fall behind to a team this good, you're not coming back. You can do your best and fight and hang in there, which clearly John Carroll did, but they just dug themselves too big a hole. There was really no chance, and the game was basically not in doubt after that 71-yard touchdown to Rummel, and that was it. So not the exciting game that we got in the first half of the day, but exciting for North Central fans, and they're going back to their 6th Stagg Bowl with a chance to be back-to-back champions for the first time, and so we'll see how it goes.
Okay, I don't have to close out Crunchtime because we never officially started it formally, so let's just keep rolling here. And at this point, let's talk about your MVPs that you had. And, only 2 games to pick from, so you had to go for a couple probably from one of the winning teams, and you did so. Go ahead and tell us who you got.
Yeah, so I was trying to think of maybe a little bit different offensive MVP because there were a lot of great offensive plays and players this weekend, but I mean, the job that Rohrer did in that game, with the game-winning touchdown, how can you not recognize that, right? The guy was unstoppable and was a big reason why River Falls is going to its first Stagg Bowl. So that was an easy offensive MVP pick from my part. On the special team side, you mentioned him earlier, Aiden Ellison, the kicker for North Central, was perfect, 11 points out of the 41 that North Central scored. Having a kicker like that, especially in bad weather, a 34-yard field goal is not a guarantee when it's, 0 or 30, 40 degrees, whatever, out there, and the ball is hard as a rock. So he's a Fred Mitchell Award winner. I think only the second time a D3 guy has won that award for kicking in college, which is impressive. And he might be a key to this Stagg Bowl game. We'll see how it plays out in a couple of weeks. Last but not least, I mentioned him before, even though he's only credited with 5 tackles, I think some of the TFLs kind of got left off here, maybe attributed to other players. But John Klefstad, the junior defensive end, a huge guy. He's like 6'4", 300 pounds or something like that, really long arms. And he was, like I said, I think that tackle on Harvey in the middle of the third quarter really changed the course of this game in certain ways. So he's going to be a guy that the really big and strong North Central defensive line is going to have to deal with. And he was my defensive MVP for Saturday.
Okay, so let's go to our predictions. I was a clear 2-0, okay? There's no debate about this. JB, we went back to the videotape, and I would play it, but it was such a long, spiraling discussion that you had about the game where you started talking about Johns Hopkins and how, you wanted to pick them because you have a lead, and then you were like, but River Falls, but Johns Hopkins, but River Falls, and ultimately, you didn't pick the damn game. Okay? Now, I'm going to give you credit for it because it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but I just would like to say to everybody that, in the last 2 weeks of the playoffs, I'm a clear 6-0, okay? You are a 6-0 with an asterisk next to it, and so we'll just leave it at that at this point. You've got a 5-game lead, so it doesn't really matter. I can't catch you unless we do, like a March Madness pool where the last games were 10 points or something like that. Yeah, and even then, I think I know who you're picking. You know who I'm picking probably in this game, but we'll talk about it another time. Let's talk about general, first look at this game, JB, and we'll put up the slide that we'd shown the other day. And we're going to keep putting some stuff out throughout the neest week and a half. We're not going to have many shows. We'll talk about that in a second, about coverage coming forward here. But, again, 5,770 yards for Caleb Blaha, breaking Joe Callahan's record from Wesley, which tells you a lot about, where this is coming from, what it means ultimately. granted, I think Callahan's mainly from his arm, so Blaha doing it in the kind of dual threat position more so, I believe, is amazing when you think about all this. But, you look at competition level. You've got to give a slight favor in that to River Falls, I would say, in terms of who they played this season. Okay? You look at just general, the tail of the tape will probably, I haven't looked at it yet, I'm going to, side by side, but I'm going to take a wild guess here that offensive yardage-wise, River Falls is going to look like superhuman still, and will have an advantage on paper. But again, North Central wins by
plus
such
60
margins.
to 70 yards per game.
But the issue is that North Central takes their foot off the gas, and their numbers don't look as good as a result of it.
That's true.
Okay, their second team, third team guys might let a little bit more yardage through, so their defensive numbers don't look as good. Offensively, you're running the ball instead of passing the ball, so it slows down the offense. So tail of the tape here is going to be interesting to see, but at the same time, I think it's going to give a false positive, and I think that might be what's happening a little bit with Logan Hanson's model, because it's A, we eccentric, and B, I think it's probably taking a couple things into consideration that don't look at North Central, why their numbers look a certain way, including score differential. They probably could score 150 on some teams if they really tried to and wanted to, but because they don't, the numbers don't weigh out the same way you would expect. But okay, your first look at this game, first assessment of this game, go ahead. What are you looking at here as the difference making? More or less, for those that are wondering, if River Falls is going to win this game, what do they have to do in your mindset from start to finish? We talked a little bit about it earlier, but kind of summarize it at this point.
Yeah, I mean, football at the end of the day isn't that complicated. If you can run it on offense and you can stop it on defense, you're going to have a good chance to win. And one of the things that I saw on Saturday in the River Falls Hopkins game was a lot of arm tackling. The Falcons need to get better at rush defense, and they're going to need to be better, particularly at handling the offensive line and getting guys to the ball a little more quickly. And when they get there, they got to take the runner down more quickly. Otherwise, this is going to be a long game for River Falls. I mean, yeah, sure, they can score a couple of plays and all that type of thing. But if North Central's offensive line dictates the line of scrimmage, this one's going to be over early. And even with all the magic that Caleb Blaha can do, it's going to be tough if he's sitting on the sideline watching these methodical drives just keep banging, rushing 5 yards a carry, and go from there.
Yeah, I agree with you. It'll be interesting to see how it sets up. I also, look, River Falls' specialty is coming out in both halves, guns a-blazing and scoring fast, that Top Gun offense. They did that against Hopkins in both halves. They scored first and early, even though Hopkins had the ball to start the second half. They couldn't do anything with it. And so River Falls comes down and, basically takes the lead back at that point, 28-27. But, long story short, it's going to be a real chess match in between the beginning of the game and halftime, and then halftime, leading to the third quarter to the end of the game. Even if River Falls gets those touchdowns early, we've seen now that doesn't mean they're unstoppable. And North Central knows that. North Central's been in that position before. The thing, though, that amazes people that we brought up a couple times this week is North Central, for all their success, 6 straight Stagg Bowls, they have yet to win consecutive Stagg Bowls. It's been an alternating scenario. Win, loss, win, loss, win. Here we go. Is this the win? Or is it another Cortland situation like 2023 ultimately? A team that people probably aren't going to give a huge amount of chance to, but that have the elements inside. A great quarterback. Think of, Zach Boyes, who carried that team.
He was great, yeah.
You want to make comparisons? Zach Boyes, who can run the ball when he needed to and knew the moments to do it. versus Caleb Laha, that might be the better direct comparison scenario right there. And having the receiving core that you needed, Cole Burgess, J.J. Lapp back when, that might be Hilton and Rohrer ultimately. They had elements. I would actually say that Cortland 23 is the better comparison, where it's not 21 where it kind of was Mary Hardin Baylor running it down their throat type of situation early on. This is more, they're competitive. They have elements. They have enough elements. Maybe 3 times out of 10 they'll beat this team, but on that night known as Stagg Bowl night, it might be one of those 3 out of 10. And so we'll see if they're able to put together. And that's kind of the way I look at it in this game. With respect to coverage coming up here, first, Merry Christmas, everybody, and enjoy your holiday. We're going to do that. We are staying off the air until next week. We'll figure out exactly what we're going to do. We will do a Sunday morning, yeah, exactly. We're going to do a Sunday morning pre-game show again, and we're trying to put together some exciting things. A couple guest analysts we want to have on that, and already got one in the works, so you'll want to tune in and watch that throughout the day, because here's what we understand, folks. And here's where we're going to go into a little soapbox, so JB might get that popcorn out at this point. Yeah. That's the last weekend of NFL action, and the 4:15 slot, usually Eastern Time, has some of the best NFL games, as well as the Sunday night game that gets flexed in. And so we understand doing a live pregame show on a Sunday night as opposed to when it was on a Friday night doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense. It won't generate the numbers. Our numbers were already whatever. Glardy Trophy should be determined by that point. All-America teams are already out. So why are we going to counter-program against the NFL just to say we were there, or to, spend a lot of money on something we don't need to spend a lot of money on? Last year, you proved to us, you watched our pregame show on Sunday morning, and we had great numbers. And we don't just do it for the numbers, but it tells us you're watching, and that's what you want. So that's what we're going to do. I do also, and I have to say this just out of respect for the fact of, our work and what we take pride in. The Glardy Trophy show, the finalist show that we saw last week, was not a production by me as it had been in previous years in terms of the actual physical production. There's some great slick graphics. The highlights that we actually had tapped the shoulders of the SIDs for, because we had intended to still do a music video for the semifinalists like we have over the previous years. They did a great job getting that stuff together. So you're welcome, Pat and company, for tapping their shoulder. Literally the day that the semifinalists came out, we pushed them to get their stuff assembled, and they did so. And great job by those SIDs. But the actual, this part of it, let's say the, talent part of it and the way things looked, woof. So, we talked with Jim Glardy, who wasn't aware of some of the changes that had been made internally with respect to production and, who's cooperating with whom at this point. And he didn't realize that when we had said we would like to do a show handing out the trophy, because I thought last year the way it worked out was a debacle in terms of the video and how it played out. And again, wasn't involved in that at all. It was left out of that discussion, and that's what we got in the end. So he thought that I meant that it was with D3 football, and so we are not going to be involved with giving out the award. We did talk about maybe doing an interview or whatever for our show with the winner ultimately, so we'll see how that works out. But, it's 2025, JB. The technology isn't that tough. Look at what we use right here. Okay, we're using a $700 piece of software. Matt Nickel from Augustana that does Voices in the Stands uses the same software, has used vMix is what we use, and you can tell production-wise he knows how to use it. He's mimicked some of the things we do along the way, I can tell, and to his credit on that. But I don't know why that production looked as crappy as it did on last week. And the sound was off for some reason too. But we're profiling an award that is our top level award, our Heisman essentially in Division III. and playing games here and playing ownership games with it and whatnot, and giving an inferior product at the end of the day, aside from slick graphics and what others are providing you, that wasn't a great look for all of us. And so moving forward, we hope that folks realize who's been producing quality video content in this space. And, you know, to Pat's credit, I think he's going to have Kobe doing his pregame show, Small School Saturday stuff over at Stagg Bowl. And, you know, congratulations to them. I even talked with folks
Yeah,
about
good luck to them.
where to put them and some of the issues we had in 2021 with internet, because we actually didn't have the internet connection we thought we did there, but we still got the show off the ground, and we did the awarding of the Ghilardi Trophy and surprised the winner with, you know, a live interview and everything, and that was great. We did
that was
that from
great.
Canton. So, you know, long story short is we're going to do our coverage the way we want to do our coverage. We'd love to help out with other things. I had a great talk with Seth Howard, left hash call, who obviously works at Kobe, but has a really great brand of his own. And I encouraged him this weekend. And I appreciated him even talking to me because of some of the toxicity that goes through this. But we still are who we are from the day one of this whole thing. You may not like our bluntness. You may not like our cockiness at times about what we know we can do and produce in this space. But you know what? At the end of the day, we are who we are. We haven't changed one bit since day one of this. And we continue to put our focus on giving the best product possible to Division III football consistently. Hence, Stagg Bowl will be my 47th game in 2 years on the sideline. JB coming to another Stagg Bowl as well, 3 years in a row. And just giving you what we can give you. And we're even bringing Zach Vargas, Josh Vega, Alex DeVito with us as well for photography out there. So we're going to have our own group because we want to give you the best product possible, hands down. And we know we can do that. We're working on exactly what our sideline coverage is going to look like during the game. And some of the other stuff. Got a couple of wrinkles up my sleeve that I'm testing, and over the next week we'll play around with it. If you liked how things went on the final MPI day, you know, using a little bit of a mixed streaming approach with the MPI numbers, we learned a little bit about ways to handle things like this and maybe what to do with it. And so stay tuned. You'll see maybe a little bit of integration that way. Coming up on Stagg Bowl Sunday. JB, last thoughts on semifinal round and anything else as we head here toward a Stagg Bowl and Christmas. What's your Christmas wish?
I think I already got it. I mean, all 5 kids are here, and we've got some plans tonight. We've got a dinner that we're all doing tomorrow for Christmas Eve, like our usual family tradition is, and then Christmas Day will be the, you know, gifts and all that kind of stuff. It's fun for me. Next door, I have a 6 and a 5-year-old who like to come over, and they are about to explode. They are so excited about Santa Claus coming, and it's little stuff like that, like the spirit of Christmas, you know, the positivity, which, as much fun as this season has been to cover and to talk to the different student athletes, I realized at one point this weekend that we had talked to 2 players from each of the semifinal teams over the course of the year. And, you know, I saw Gage Tim led the Falcons in tackles on Saturday. We obviously talked to Caleb a couple of weeks ago. We talked to Drew Chair from Johns Hopkins, Bay Harvey, you know, and that stuff for me is what resonates. You know, the positive interactions. You know, Mary Roby, who we spoke to from North Central, J.P. Sullivan, who couldn't have been a nicer guy, which surprised me because he scared the crap out of me in Houston. He was so intense and like this big, like, you know, like this. But the interpersonal reactions and the feedback that we get from people from the NCAA, from the coaches, from the ADs, all this stuff, you know, reminds me that even though we have a couple of vocal critics out there, and, you know, to all this, you know, give peace a chance, like, well, you know, take some of your own medicine. You know, we've tried to, you know, do our thing to be better people. You know, I think you know, this time of year, you know, it would be great if we could just kind of put everything behind us and just move forward, you know, in the spirit of the season. But anyway, maybe that's too much to ask for, but we'll just keep doing what we were doing. Like you said, I love the interactions with the players and the coaches. I'm looking forward to getting up to Canton, even though I'm not looking forward to the weather. I'm a little worried about that. It'd be 70 degrees outside for me right now. That's what I'm used to. I remember watching the River Falls game and seeing all those people in the stands and like this barren, frozen wasteland in the background. I'm like, I don't know how people live out there. But, I also could see, from the posts from like the Tarnation Tavern, like there's such a great community in these little, towns all across the Midwest and the Northeast that do. I mean, when we do these games, Frank, we go to like the middle of nowhere. D3 schools are usually in the middle of nowhere. They're very rural areas. It's, kind of the salt of the earth people. And, that's the stuff that I'm grateful for, are the relationships we've made. And could we do a few things a little better here and there? Yep. But we're not gonna back down when we kind of know and feel what's right. So I think that's it.
Well,
that's all I got to say.
I'm going to say one thing. Okay, this whole give peace a chance thing and divide it up. Okay, the running joke right now in D3 is this is what mobile looks like for D3 football. I mean, there's ads right now at 7/8 of the screen, literally. And yeah, you can click around them and everything else, but it's a mess. And I reached out to Pat at one point early in the season, and I'm like, Pat, I have some business ideas on how to make this work without those ads doing what it's doing, because it's ruining your site. It's not helping what is the bread and butter really of D3 football out there, which is getting to the information people want to see, the scoreboards and everything else, and it couldn't be bothered with. And it's like, this is the simple stuff. This is the stuff that we can cooperate with. You may not like me on certain days of the week or like what I say on certain days of the week, but you know what? Not for nothing, we have guided change positively in Division III football for years. And we went out there and started doing video for D3 football before video was a big thing. And, trusting us to sort of lead and guide. I just want to be able to get to a freaking score without having to go through 92 ads to get to a score. And I think a lot of people out there feel the same way. And there's a lot of money in Division III. People are willing to give us money even without even asking for it. There's ways, business-wise, to handle it to make that site so much stronger and better right now. And so, yeah, you're right. Give peace a chance, because without doing it, you're screwing your own site and your own viewership and readership out there. We can all do better. You're right. And we need to. And that's my Christmas wish, is that people stop getting butthurt when we say things and understand that at the end of the day, we have ideas. We don't just crap talk. We actually have solutions too along the way, because we want to see everybody do better and excel in this. Yes, give peace a chance. That's why I told Seth. I think Seth is the best content creator brand right now out there, because he's got the know-how, the knowledge, the insight on Left Dash Call. He absolutely is. And I'm glad we had a good conversation to sort of, push some things back. And I said, if he needs anything out in Canton, just let me know. We're happy to help him out. And we're happy to help anybody out. It's not about kissing rings and all this other crap. It's about, at the end of the day, JB, doing the right thing for Division 3. Not about us, but Division 3. And that's been our credo all along. That's where we'll leave you for Christmas. Again, our Christmas wish is for folks to do the best they can for Division 3 football that want to be associated with it. And so with that, we'll see you next week to do the best we can for Division 3 football as we approach the Stagg Bowl. Thanks for joining us. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and enjoy your families, folks.